to our class for today. Remember, we were doing speed, distance, and time the last time when you are attending our lesson. And we just want to continue with our topic, that is speed, distance, and time. And today we are going to talk more of the speed. And remember, speed, distance, and time, they are related in such a way that speed is equals to distance divided by time. So speed is equals to distance divided by time, and also time is equals to distance divided by speed, or distance over speed. But distance is equals to speed times time. So those are the formulas that must stick in your head. And today we are going to talk more about speed. Remember, we have tackled time in the previous lesson. So today we want to concentrate more on the speed. More so tackling questions involving speed, especially in graphical work. So today, like the formula that we said, that speed is equal to distance divided by time, we are going to see how distance time graph can be used to calculate the speed that the motorist or anybody takes to cover a certain distance. So today we are going to look at the graph, that is the distance time graphs, that will help us to find the speed or the average speed for the whole journey. So before we look at these questions, let's take an example of this diagram that I've prepared for you here. Remember, when you talk about the distance time graph, we have this line from here up to here on the y-axis. So this line is what we call the vertical line or the vertical axis. So on the vertical side, you will always find that there is a distance either in meters or kilometers. And then this side that is down here is what we call the horizontal side or the x-axis. So we have these two axes. Just know that your distance you're going to read from this side here and your time from down here. Remember also that when you're talking about speed inside here, when you see that the line is straight or there is an horizontal line here, it means that you are not covering any distance. That means your speed is zero. Maybe you are resting. So distance from here up to here is zero, but the time will continue to count, but no distance is being covered. That means maybe you are resting, or maybe you are repairing a puncture. So there's no distance which is covered here. Then the steepness. So if I take this point from here up to here, and also here, there's no distance covered, so the speed is zero. Then I take another point from here up to here. And then someone is asking you between point maybe A and B, and C and D, between which 2 points was the speed highest? Just know that where the line is steeper meaning when it is almost straight like this, it means now that you are traveling at the highest speed. So between this point and this point, you can say that at this point, the speed was higher compared to this speed, which is here. So a horizontal line shows that the speed is zero. Anytime you're reading a graph, how to interpret the graph? It means that you are resting or the speed is zero, simply because there is no distance that is being covered. Then the steeper the line is, the greater the speed. So always check, the steeper the line, the greater the speed. So if you look at a line, this one from here up to here, and this one here up to here, you'll say that here, the motorist was traveling at the higher speed compared to this one. Then the formula of the day is the speed, or in other words, the average speed taken for the whole journey is equals to total distance traveled. So for example, from here up to here, you'll ask yourself, how many kilometers did the motorist cover? Then the time, you'll be reading time from this side here, divided by the time taken, or the total time taken for the journey. So let's see how this formula is going to be applicable to the examples that I've given you. The first example, the graph below shows the motorist journey between two towns. Find his average speed for the whole journey. Very easy. Just know that the speed is here. The journey started at 1300 hours, or 1 p.m. And then the journey ended at 1700, that is 5 p.m. For you to understand this question, you must know how to interpret this graph. I told you we have two axes. We have the vertical line, which is here, which will give us distance in kilometers, and this one will give us time in hours. Remember, the journey started at 1300, then at 1400 hours, the motorist started resting. He rested until, if you follow this line, until 1530. So he rested for 1.5 hours. Then started the journey again until the journey ended at 1700 hours. So if you're able to do, and then another thing you're supposed to know is that the distance now from this town to the other town is 60 kilometers. Very important. If I call this one town A to town B, so the distance from town A to town B, you'll just see this is 0 kilometers. You follow this line until you reach here, it is 60 kilometers. So speed is equal to distance over time. So what is the distance from town A to B? It is 60 kilometers. Then what is the time taken for the journey? The total time taken. If you start your journey at 1300 hours, then the journey is ending at 1700 hours. You just have to subtract 1700 hours minus 1300 hours. So the total time taken for the journey is 4 hours. So already we will find our answer. Remember, we said average speed for the whole journey is equal to total distance traveled over total time taken. So 60 kilometers was covered in 4 hours, or the journey took 4 hours. So what is the speed in kilometers per hour? 60 divided by 4, 15 kilometers per hour. Then another example for us today. This topic is very, very easy. The graph below shows the journey from Nairobi to Bungoma and back. So the keyword here is back. You have traveled from Nairobi. Nairobi is down here to Bungoma, and then you also went back. Find the average speed for the whole journey. So let's try to interpret this graph. The journey started at 7 a.m. in the morning and ended 3 p.m. So 3 p.m. the afternoon, or say this is the same as 15. So let's start with the distance. Remember, our formula still remains. Average speed is equal to distance travel over total time taken. So let me start with the distance. So what is the distance from Nairobi to Bungoma? Nairobi to Bungoma is 400 kilometers, if you can check here. But because now you went to Bungoma and also came back, so it is 400 plus 400, or 400 times 2, which is 800 kilometers. So the total distance traveled is 800 kilometers and not 400. Why? Because you travel from Nairobi to Bungoma and back and back. So that one we have finished with our speed from the vertical axis, or the y axis, giving us the distance in kilometers. The total distance travel is 400 kilometers plus 400 kilometers, which is 800 kilometers. Then now, let's see the total time taken for the journey. We'll move to the horizontal axis, that is the x-axis. Remember, the journey started at 7 a.m. and the journey ended at 3 p.m. So how many hours are here in between? You need to subtract. First of all, you will need to change this one into 24-hour clock system. 3 p.m. is the same as 15. 1500 hours minus 700 hours, it is 8 hours. So from 7 a.m., you can even count from 7 in the morning to 3 p.m., it is 8 hours. And I've told you the best way for you to do is to change your time in 24-hour clock system and then you subtract. So if you change this one, it is 1500 hours minus 700 hours, it is 8 hours. So remember our distance is 800 kilometers divided by 8 hours. That one will give us the average speed for the whole journey. So let's see how you can work it out very easily. So total distance from Nairobi to Bungoma is 400 kilometers. Then from Bungoma to Nairobi also is 400 kilometers. The distance is the same. So I've told you, if the distance from home to school is 10 kilometers, then the same distance from school to home is 10 kilometers. So the total distance is 20. That's why we're saying here that if we have been given that the distance from Nairobi to Bungoma is 400 kilometers, and then you went to Nairobi to Bungoma and also you came back, so you have covered 800 kilometers in total. Then total time taken, we have subtracted 1500 hours minus 700 hours, it's 8 hours. Then our formula is average speed for the whole journey is equals to total distance covered over total time taken. So we're dividing 800 divided by 8, and your answer will be 100 kilometers per hour. So that one marks the end of our lesson today. I've given you some questions. Make sure you attempt the questions. Then you must start with the examples. Then you attempt those few questions that I've given you. Otherwise, I want you to have a good time.